Guillermo, Emil, Amok to you. Hey, welcome to my Takeout, my Emil Amok's Takeout. Professor Dan, it's a Friday, so he'll join us in just a second. We'll talk about the San Francisco State Strike, the 57th anniversary. We'll talk about the elections. We'll talk about the news. We'll talk about the shutdown. We'll talk about the airplanes, the planes. We'll talk about all that coming up. But I want to talk about my Emil Amok live show, 69. It's the live theater show, right? My one-man solo performance modeled after my interpretation of Spalding Gray and all those one-man shows that those of us of a certain age probably remember. Emil Amok 69. Oh, you say, is it a sex show, Emil? Well, I mean, 68. Did you know there is no number 69 in the NBA? Think about that. You got men in their underwear wearing 69 on their chest, out in public. Cannot happen in the NBA. You can be number 69 in baseball. You can be number 69 in football. You can't be number 69 in the NBA. Did you know that? I mean, that's the truth. Anyway, I'm Emil Amok 69. I do my show November 19th. You see that? November 19th. And here's me holding up the basketball. Pretty much. It's the QR code. Emil Amok 69 QR code. At the Marsh in San Francisco, 1062 Valencia Street. Go to themarsh.org for tickets. You see all the nice things that people have said about my show or about my performances? Written and performed by me, Emil Amok Guillermo. Yeah. Emil Amok 69. Is it a sex show, you ask? Well, you're just you can watch it upside down or right side up, whatever you choose. It's an interesting take on the times we live in today. I mean, I could do a show. I mean, I went to some fringe festivals with this, and there were shows from Shakespeare and other kinds of things. But what's the story of our lives, the story of our times? It's living in 2025. How did we survive? How are we surviving? Emil Amok 69. Get your tickets at themarsh.org. It's one night only, 10/19. It's a Marsh Rising. I found the secret to get a Marsh Rising. Add yeast, and we rise. Anyway, there, QR code. Put it on pause and get the QR code. Of course. Anyway, it's a fun show. Some people have liked it around not just the country, around the nation, right? And so we get add our fancy little ticker. So please come, one night only, November 19th, Emil Amok 69. I explain why it's 69. Although you can guess, right? That is my IQ, clearly. And now, let me bring in my guest. He's a regular guest on Friday. We had a good week this week. We had the Democrats win on Tuesday, and then Dan and I, Professor Dan Gonzalez, got together on Wednesday, and we talked about that and Filipino-American history, and we're going to talk about all that. And also we're going to talk about the San Francisco State University strike, which happened in 1968-69, 57 years ago. The anniversary was celebrated on the 6th, on Thursday, but we can still talk about it. 57 years. Let me bring up my friend Daniel Phil Gonzalez, College of Ethnic Studies, Asian American Studies.
Hello. Got to be
Hello,
Friday,
Dan.
and it's afternoon, and we're spending time with the great Emil Guillermo.
Gillian, thank you for pronouncing it the Filipino way.
Yeah.
Hey, so Dan,
You're welcome.
the strike's anniversary.
Right. It was
We
great.
talked about this at the, and then we'll get into the election, and we'll talk when we talk about the news, because
Okay, well,
there's some
let's describe it. You know what I've heard is that people don't know anything about the strike, and
yes.
So you know that makes sense, because it's sort of like teaching about World War II or even Vietnam, right?
Mhm.
To today's generation, I think there's a smaller group of students, especially at the senior high school level, junior, senior, college, that are familiar with the importance of Vietnam. But they don't realize that there was a lot of activism, both for and against the war, right? And that was a central element. And the other central element was civil rights.
Yeah.
Civil rights. Those were the two big things going on, not only in American society, but being watched by people all over the world. And so the strike was specifically an outgrowth of an ever increasing so-called militant movement, right? Championed mostly by students at the first, and also unions and working
Yeah.
people. So that's also left out. The fact that we had this strong relationship with unions at the time, and it started in the early 1960s, and it continued through the protests against the war and the passage of the Civil Rights Act, and it culminated in student activism at a very high level, specifically at SF State. UC Berkeley always gets the credit for it. And they get the credit for stuff that we did at SF State. And not only me and my cohort personally, but people, for example, who participated in the protests against HUAC, right?
HUAC being
the House Un-American Activities Commission, which was
is
an absolutely uncongressional commission, right? But it was comprised of members of Congress. They went around the country trying to persecute and prosecute, right, people on the left. And this was not outright just communists. They blamed it on communists. They said, we're going after communists, right? But the reality was they were going after anybody who was critical in any way of any aspect of the reality of American society.
Yeah, and look at the parallels today. I mean,
that was 1960. SF State students at HUAC were beaten up by police, were literally flooded down the main staircase at City Hall, which is like 3 flights high, right? And they were washed down. They turned on the fire hoses inside the building, to literally wash people out of the building and down the stairs and out.
And let's not forget, this is the antecedent where, it all comes together in terms of, when Trump calls Zoran Mandani a communist, he's just throwing those flares out there to hopefully light up the sense that we don't like the communists, we're anti-communists. And, Zoran is not a communist, democratic socialist, but the right likes to use those little flares to get people excited.
They generalize all the time. They generalize about people of color.
Yeah. So all right.
Reagan generalized about people on SNAP. We just called it food stamps at the end back then. But they generalized it, and everybody believed that it was all black women and with fatherless families that and that they were all of the people that were taking SNAP. And now the Republicans are bringing up the issue again. These people are trading their coupons, right, for dope and liquor. And so it's feeding criminal activity, right, on the streets and homelessness and all this stuff. And then I said, you know what? They haven't put out coupons for I don't know how many years, man. So these guys haven't even caught up with the fact that you get a card, right?
Yeah, that's supposed to make it look like a middle class. We're like the middle class debtors. We use credit cards, but there goes credit.
It is less embarrassing, but it's also very efficient.
Oh yeah,
it's very efficient. And people can't. You might be able to trade your card. I don't know. But I certainly haven't seen that. I personally haven't seen it. I don't live in an area, where I would suspect that if we went to the Tenderloin, we might see that kind of trading going on.
Well,
but the reality again is that as it was 60 years ago, it's white single moms and their children on AFDC, aid to financially dependent children, that are the majority by double the numbers of both Latinos and African Americans, right?
And what the Democrats like to point out is that when the Republicans want to cut SNAP benefits, they are hurting their own constituents.
Red states.
So, yeah. All right.
That comes up again later in our conversation. Right, anyway, back to the strike. The strike was motivated by those inequalities and the frustration of not getting support for those basic positions. Now, internal to the strike demands, okay, besides hiring more faculty of color, there were very few, admitting more students of color. From a Filipino American community point of view, there were only 75 people who said I'm Filipino by identification that were attending San Francisco State at that time. Today, there are between 1,500 and 2,000, depending on a given semester year. Okay, depending on how admissions went.
And let's just go over this point again. The significance of this is that this cultural thing was happening throughout society with the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, the whole civil rights thing in 64, 65. So by time it trickles down to the university at San Francisco State, really, it was maybe at the front lines of bringing it up there in higher ed.
I mean, it was SF State population. Yes. SF State population was called the commuter school. They actually called it the streetcar school.
Yeah.
Because it was local people were the vast majority of people who went to SF State. And so that was one aspect. The other aspect is class. Okay. It was squarely a middle class, a lower and middle class school. Okay. So these are people who also, especially in the afternoon programs and classes in the evening, we're talking about people who had 8-hour gigs, man. They were working.
Oh, I know. A lot of people went to night school. I had
That's
people
right.
I knew who were older and then going to the college. They went to school, and then they were the park director, that we played with, my park director coach, Rich Goldberg, he went to school at night.
That's right.
He got his master's even at the BCA, the Broadcast Communications.
That's right.
So this is the thing about San Francisco State. It was at the forefront. It never gets the credit, but it was there where the strike happened. And the strike was important because, a lot of people, when you think of ethnic studies, even to this day, people say, oh, back then they were saying, oh, that's basket weaving. That's like, who needs that, right? and that would, and yet.
Well, they call the experimental college basket weaving. And the experimental college was observed by people from all over the world, including the best, most traditional European and British universities. People from all over the world came to look at the experimental college and what it was all about. The basic philosophy was we're turning the control of the direction of the course over to the students, with the faculty being a guide and a mentor, but not a person who dictates outright, right? The concept, subject matter, and approach of the course. And people said, wow, that just promotes too much free thinking.
Well, I mean,
that was exactly what people wanted to do.
This was a wave of liberalism that was coming at higher ed, and it was new. And like you said, it coincided with the protests in Vietnam. But this was a unique thing. And you were a striker. You were one of the strikers, but you also often talked about doing the quiet work, which is the bureaucratic work. And when I mentioned that at our meeting, I said, you were out there doing the paperwork. I said, so you were the bureaucrat of the strike. Is that it? And
yeah, and it hurts. It hurts. I mean,
you weren't the bomb thrower.
That is the reality. That was the quiet work. I mentioned the fact that I probably spent only about 10% of my time on the strike line and 90% of my time in meetings, both on and off campus. And some of the meetings were about strategy. What do we do to win this thing, to get a strike settlement and get the demands right, effectively win all the demands. Now, a lot of us knew we weren't going to get all the demands, okay? But one of the things that the now retired, supposedly, he's still working as a judge. I don't know. He's retired. I don't know if he gets extra pay because he works more, even though he's retired. But the Honorable Ronald Evans Kidichai, right, was the guy who actually recruited me into PACE, got me into the college. It was still a college at the time, through EOP.
PACE being
PACE was the Philippine American, the name at the time was Philippine American Collegiate Endeavor. That's the collegiate thing always cracks me up, right? Yeah, it sounds really formal, actually. But it was started by a guy named Patrick Saliver, right? And he was Ed Illumin, another member of PACE, and for a while, my housemate for a while. said called him a visionary, and he was. He was truly a visionary. There's a lot of stuff that we did that was the kind of thing that I can't talk about, even though the statutes of limitations have passed on.
That's all right. That's all right. We'll leave it
but
out.
You got to remember, man, it was the 60s and early 70s, dude. This San Francisco was the center, one of the centers, but it was really strong of the musical universe. Everybody came here to play. The Haight, you could go to the Haight on weekends and see for free on Sundays afternoons the same guys that played that you went to pay money to go see them at Graham's. Well, it's Graham's now, but it was a Civic Center auditorium.
Right.
The Fillmore and the Fillmore West and the Avalon Ballroom. Or if it was really kind of cheap, it would be Longshoreman's Hall. The sound in there sucked, man.
I didn't like Longshoreman's Hall, but I like the Fillmore, and I like.
Oh yeah, it was good. Avalon. It was good. There's a lot. And have you been in there lately, man? Doesn't it seem like wow?
The Avalon
in here? Yeah, no, the Fillmore.
I haven't been there a long time. The
Fillmore. They kind of got a semi-museum set up. A lot of the posters and stuff. But the funny thing is, everybody goes in there and they say, "Man, this really seems small."
It was small. I mean, it is small. I've been to Fillmore like maybe 15, 20 years ago, but I Fillmore West when it was there on
that was a lot bigger.
That was a lot bigger. All right, so it was music, but people seem to, when they talk about the San Francisco State strike, people seem obsessed with the idea that it was violent, that there was violence,
and it was violent, and one of the reasons it was violent was because the cops kept on beating on people, right? And so there were others who were among the protesters, right, and the ralliers, right? We held rallies that threw stuff at the cops, right? I mean, it was a variety of things. I mean, you still got sodas in glass bottles, and that was dangerous, but they would throw that at the cops. I remember one time there was a pool hall in Stonestown, right? The shopping center, just immediately attached to the campus, actually, right? And people got billiard balls out of the pool hall and that's dangerous, man. And so that provoked cops to do violence. I thought it was really stupid to do that kind of provocation, but that stuff usually got thrown by people in the back of the crowd, right? So they had some insulation with the bodies in front of them from the cop violence, while the cops attacked the people in the front of the crowd. So they really paid the price. A lot of head injuries, a lot of rib injuries because they were using long batons and they were using striking, stabbing motions, which was taught at the time. Those things were completely outlawed. They used things called PKs. It was a baton that looked like a tonfa, which is an Okinawan weapon. Well, it looks like something you do thrashing with because it's a farm implement, right? But it was also used as a weapon. They actually designed the police baton to do that, and people who were martial artists, black belts. Multiple black belts, grandmasters, they were teaching the cops how to use those things, and including choke tactics. And people died from that, especially down in Los Angeles. They died from that. So the kind of violence that you see committed not only by the police, but by ICE, by Border Patrol, right? And hopefully not the military, but the kind of violence that we're witnessing then, right, is actually worse than the violence that we witnessed back in the 60s and 70s, right? It's actually worse, and it's more likely to cause lifetime maiming, right, and death, and so it's worse now. And that's one of the things that came out when we were talking with students at the commemoration of the strike, the 57th commemoration yesterday. We all agreed that this is worse. The strikers. Everybody, we all agreed. We're talking about people who are in their 70s and 80s now, man. And they're all saying the same thing. We had a common experience over a period of several years, and we said the same thing. It's worse now.
And but the fact that it's, we're returning to that. We're returning to those days when the protests, it seems like we've been here before. There's a kind of deja vu, to borrow a phrase from, it's not just Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young's phrase, but it's a phrase that was common back then. We have all been here before, right? The deja vu is happening now. Well,
I
so
remember
all
when
right,
they started out, it was just Crosby, Stills, and then they
it's
added
Crosby,
Nash
Stills,
and
and
Young.
then they
Yeah,
had the
right.
Nash,
Yeah,
and then they had the
yeah,
Young. Yeah.
Young. Yeah,
All right, now at when we met this week and we talked about some of the people who were players, we talked about the role of Sam Hayakawa, who was the president of SF
right.
State at the
Oh, you
time,
were
and
friends.
he
You must have been friends. It was only his friends that called him Sam.
Sam, well, no, I wasn't a friend of his, but I just know that they could. I just remember reading some biographies of Sam. But anyway, he
Yeah.
was a U.S. senator. So if people are listening around the world, this guy became a player. What role did he play in the strike, or what role did he play to get the strikers together? Because there was this cultural thing happening in America, right? We went from martinis to pot. We went from all these things. The counterculture was sort of sort of upending the old, and this was part of that whole shift. How did
Yeah, yeah,
Hayakawa bring
yeah.
people together?
We didn't give up martinis.
Oh,
Okay,
okay, all right.
first
We
of
did
all,
give him
you know,
martinis, yeah.
we went to vodka
Okay,
instead of gin.
all
Okay,
right. But
and
what did
yeah,
what did
we added tequila. We added tequila. That
all the
was.
white juice? Okay, so what happened? What did Hayakawa do?
So Hayakawa, okay, what did he do? First of all, he was the choice of a very conservative but powerful element among the faculty. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so the our local faculty we had protested against two previous presidents,
Mm-hmm.
Smith and Summerskill. Summerskill was clearly a liberal, right? And that was another one of the things that we reviewed with students yesterday. Is that this guy was a liberal, and he was trying to be accommodating of some of the strike demands, but the police, the presence of the police, the local politics with Joe Alioto permitting the police, and a guy named Ronald Reagan
Mm-hmm.
wanting to bring state police onto the campus. In after the winter break, it was exacerbated by now state police from other states were coming onto the campus. Okay,
Ah,
and they were extended also the authority and right to arrest, right,
yeah.
and cuff and send to jail. And so this was getting really out of hand. I remember seeing patches from Colorado, people from Denver, and I said, boy, if they start sending people from Texas, we're really in deep stuff, man.
Hey, this sounds
But
oddly reminiscent of things that are happening today.
oh, really? Oh, did somebody that we know say that I'm going to send in the National Guard from other states? Oh, is that what you're referring to?
I'm just
Oh, you
saying
mean
that
it happened 60 years ago
uh,
under another Republican?
I'm just
Oh,
saying that the
yeah.
tactics are there.
Wow.
All
Do you
right.
see a pattern here?
Well, so
We see a
tell.
pattern. We see Nixon, and then we see Reagan, and then we see, guess who? Orange Man,
Yeah. Well,
right?
tell me what happened to S.I. Hayakawa. How did he bridge the gap?
He actually was a figurehead, and I mentioned this on Wednesday, right? He was a
Mm-hmm.
figurehead. The guy that really ran the campus was Don Garrity. Okay, he was a veep and now what we would call a provost, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was the guy that ran it. And this guy was a poker player. He was so good. He was fantastic at managing the most conflictual, right, meetings
Mm-hmm.
that had been Mau. Now we used Mau to talk about a strategy where you just pack the room. You pack the room, you breathe down the neck of your adversary, right? You got in their face, right? You did everything short of name calling, right?
Mm-hmm.
Except political name calling,
Yeah.
maybe. You right wing, running dog capitalist, right?
Yeah.
That kind
Yeah.
of stuff. Okay.
So
And
what did
and
Sam
and
do?
and
So Garrity did that, and
Sam
Sam.
was a figurehead. He was a lot like the guy that's in here now. I mean, Trump is far more active than Sam was.
All right, but
Sam
Sam.
was actually, Sam thought himself, S.I. Hayakawa thought himself a liberal, and in many ways he was. He
Right,
was a liberal,
but
right?
he
And
wanted
and
he wanted to
this
be
guy, Mill Valley, for God's sake,
he.
Mill Valley was like the hangout
Yeah.
of all. That's where a lot of the professors, particularly the professors in the humanities, and he was a professor of philosophy
Right,
in the
but
humanities, and he lived in Mill Valley.
he wanted to be a senator, and so he wanted to. How did he get people to get on common ground so they could go forward?
First of all, he he was elevated by Ronald Reagan. Okay, he was elevated in the public eye by Ronald Reagan. Right, he was elevated in the public eye by Republican conservatives and conservatives, Democratic conservatives as well. You know, there was such a thing, right? There were Republican liberals, right, and there were Democratic conservatives, right? So it was a different time. Okay, and those people on the conservative side of any party, independent, you know, Republican, Democrat, they supported Hayakawa. He was a person of color. I mean, some of this is theory, right? He was a person of color. He wasn't militant black. He was a law and order guy. He wanted to restore order on the campus, right? And so he was elevated for those reasons. He was obviously spokesworthy. He looked good on TV, you know, because he had an image, right?
Right.
For him, his tam o'shanter was MacArthur's corncob pipe, right? So he was identified with that. His glasses. I mean, he was easy to caricature, right? To make caricatures of and all that. And so on the left and the right, he was made a hero, and on the left, he was made a joke.
All right, but my point though, Dan, was that at some point, the strikers, used Hayakawa, and he was an ally, and you flattered him in order to get to that middle ground. Is that?
I don't. Yeah, we didn't. We didn't flatter him necessarily. Maybe some people did. That was not certainly one of my tactics. Most of us were in his face, right? But we would use media and leak out things that were happening inside his administration that were embarrassing, right? Anything to lessen his credibility. But that was a losing battle. Okay, what we did do was we said strategically, if he wants to run for office, I said, you know, this guy's never run for anything. So I don't know how, you know, strong that's going to be, but we didn't want to underestimate the way that he had been elevated in the public eye by conservatives, like I said earlier. And so we said, you know, if he's going to run, we'll vote for him. I don't know. I wasn't sincere about that. I wasn't going to vote for him.
But that's all it took. He knew that he had a group of people who would just support him, and so it greased the skids for the strike. All right, so does it surprise you as you look back 57 years that you struck in 68 and that you were able to put together classes and a curriculum for a College of Ethnic Studies?
That was a major goal.
Within 2 years.
That was a major goal. That was one goal that I knew we could get 100% of that. We could establish. The probability was, if we did things right, we could establish the first school of ethnic studies ever in the nation. We're still the biggest, as far as I know.
You were the first.
The CSU.
You were the first.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we were. Yeah, absolutely. Regardless of what Berkeley and Davis say, okay? We were first. Davis was second. Berkeley was third.
And the significance is it's a College of Ethnic Studies, not just an Asian American department, a Black Studies department. It was
we were a school at the time, but the university, it wasn't a university, it was a college. So the organizational units, right, the academic units, subordinate to the college were
schools.
Were schools, exactly. And then beneath the schools, departments. So when the CSU system became the CSU system in the late 70s, they elevated the college system to a university system. The difference is you got to grant doctoral degrees. Okay. And so when CSU became CSU, then the schools became colleges. Right. And that's how that happened.
And SF State, SFSU.
That's really, very important. Yeah. You're making a very important distinction. Right. That we were the equivalent, right? From an academic sovereignty point of view, we were the equivalent of the other schools that were components of San Francisco State College. So there was a school of science, there was a school of behavioral and social sciences, school of humanities, and there was a school of ethnic studies with 4 sovereign departments that had the ability to hire, fire, and create curriculum. And nobody else did that. Yeah, no one else did that.
Here's the thing, Dan. You guys were so far ahead and so far wokey than anyone else.
Yeah, well, the woke part, that's the definition that's used by the right, particularly the obviously racist definition of what is woke, right? From the right is really a rather I'm going to try to be fair, vapid definition
don't be that fair.
Of woke. Woke merely at its very roots, woke means socially and politically conscious. That's all it means.
Yeah.
That's all it means. That you're aware, okay, at the highest level possible for your personal experience, right? And understanding of the reality of the world. That you're understanding of the reality, not only of your personal experience right here, but what's going on in the dynamic between your relationship as an individual to the rest of society, to your community, your family, the rest of society, the world. Yeah. And that was emphasized yesterday at our discussion with students. Okay. They were very impressed with the fact that, people were saying, no, you have to have a global consciousness. You got to see what we're doing here is not only being observed by the rest of the world, it could be either imitated or criticized by the rest of the world. But they have a global consciousness that involves the United States. It's the Americans that don't have a global consciousness that involves the rest of the world. That's the problem.
Well, right now we pull out of the climate talks. We pull out of everything. We say America first. We want to put America behind a fortress, and it's America alone. Except when it comes to Russia, except when when it comes to China, except when
and right now it's Hungary, right?
Yeah,
it's about Hungary, and I just found out that an old friend that I had seen yesterday, and I hadn't seen them in years. One of their relatives is in Hungary right now, and I was thinking, well, Budapest is cool, but I wouldn't be stretching out too far. Hungary is not. It's fascist as hell. Whoops, where are you? Where are you? You've gone away from me. Don't leave me here alone.
Dan reconnects. Oh, there he goes. Okay, you're
okay. Don't leave me here alone.
Okay, so too much paprikash there. Okay, look. All right, so here's the thing: the strike is over. You got your classes. You got the college. You got everything. But ethnic studies. Look, I was 57 years ago.
Yes.
We talked about woke. Woke puts the anti-woke movement of Trump puts everything, and what he's doing now with the universities, starting with Harvard, going with all the Ivies. I don't think San Francisco State's involved in the initial will you agree to this and will you agree to that the Trump administration wants. But what?
No, they weren't.
Yeah,
I mean, we have a great president.
Yeah, but that's
she's
good.
One of the yeah.
I mean, but so what happens?
Really a great president.
What happens to ethnic studies?
Mahoney.
What happens to ethnic studies when it's under attack in general everywhere else by the Trump administrations?
Well, see, first of all, we're West Coast, and then especially we're California, and last of all, we're Bay Area, San Francisco. Okay. So we have a defense mechanism, a natural defense mechanism. We're surrounded by what the right hates about Nancy Pelosi. She's not alone, right? In many ways, Nancy Pelosi, however progressive she's been on issues involving LGBTQ, for example, right, and the AIDS projects, HIV project, and all that, right, and however supportive she's been of people of color, and she travels well, right, in all of our communities, throughout all of our communities, and she's a welcome person. But there were a lot of them. There were the Burtons, in my opinion, were more strident than Nancy.
John, Philip, and Sala.
Yes, exactly. So you've got state legislature and congressional representation, right, from an earlier version of the San Francisco Bay Area liberals. Got Willie Brown, right, who he pissed off the conservatives in the legislature so much that they went ahead and put up the infamous proposition that put limitations on term limits, and they did that the main target was his willingness.
Yeah.
Because he was going to be continually for a lifetime, right, leading as the speaker of the assembly.
All right.
And
So
that was like the equivalent at the state level of being a speaker of the House.
all right.
We
So
don't have a speaker of the House right
all
now.
right, you mentioned some
We have a
things.
puppet.
You mentioned some things about San Francisco liberal
So
politics. Yeah.
that's part of our defense mechanism. We have community support. We have support from the African American community. We have some partial support from the Filipino American community. We have support from every community that's represented in our coursework, because we maintain one of our absolute requirements is that we maintain a relationship with our communities, our actual communities. So our courses reflect that.
Yeah,
They actually deal with Filipino Americans and in general society. We have a course on identity issues. We have a course on Filipino American history. We have a course on Filipino American literature and art. Okay.
Yeah,
So that's where we've been.
What I was noticing when I taught there for a few semesters is that really every group was represented. There were no.
Yes.
I mean, there was a Persian group, there was a Arab group,
Yes.
there was. I mean, the
Yep.
ethnicities were represented within
Associated
the college.
students.
Yeah,
that's right.
And you can get a course.
Both.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, as much as we could afford it,
Yeah.
right? It all comes down to how you spend your money.
Yeah.
And how well funded you are. That's always been the major threat against any coursework, any department, any school, any college, right? Within the CSU system is its economics.
All right.
What if they want to hurt you, all they got to do is defund you.
And that's the thing about Trump attacking Harvard and going after all the schools. Yes. Funding is important. But so my question again is, can ethnic studies survive this anti-woke wave that's hitting the country? Because it is hitting the country. You're saying there's a defense wall here, but there's people who look at ethnic studies and they'll say, oh,
it's a major target.
It's basket week.
Yeah, no, that doesn't work anymore. Now they just say we're woke. Yeah. And what they've done is they've racialized the term, right? So that you could just put the N word in and plug that in. Yeah. You could put the C word in. Any ethnic or racial epithet, you could put that in, plug that in, and that's what woke means to them. Okay. And that's what they're trying to convince to the rest of the society. Okay. Yeah. Now, the reason I raised the liberal character, right, of especially Northern California and the Bay Area as an element of our defense is we are accepted, right, as a permanent element of the higher education system. And because of the work of people like my colleague, Alison Tintianco-Cubales, who happens to be Pinay, a Filipina, right, and a lot of allies across the state, right. First, an ethnic studies course must be taught, right, for high school graduates, right, in the city and county of San Francisco. That's one, and it went statewide. There was great, and there still is great conflict over what the content of the ethnic studies course should be statewide, and the reason is, for example, that pro-Israeli elements within our local populations, right, are very much against the way that the Israeli position on Palestinians is being covered in many of the suggested course content, right? In much of the suggested course content. So they either don't want it in there, or reference to Palestinians at all. That's ridiculous, right? Yeah. Particularly in light of the global circumstances that we're facing right now. And particularly in light of the plight of Palestinians in the West Bank, as well as obviously Gaza. And so that is a major element that's been a drag on the implementation of those programs. It's also meant that those same elements, those people who are in favor of the position taken by the anti-Palestinian elements, right, are also against ethnic studies in general, because they see us as the original prevaricators of those perspectives. And they're right. But guess what? there is a Jewish studies program on our campus. Okay.
Yeah, I remember
When
that.
we
Yeah.
first started ethnic studies, right? People were saying, well, what we really mean by ethnic is 4 groups, right? We mean Native Americans, we need African Americans, known black at the time, right? La raza, which meant Latinos and Mexican Americans, right? And Asian Americans, which meant Chinese, Japanese, Filipino, right? Those were the groups. That's who established ethnic studies. And I said, well, what happens when other ethnic groups, because we call it ethnic studies, not third world studies. We wanted it to be called third world studies, but third world was too political, right?
Oh,
The chancellors wouldn't allow it. The president wouldn't allow it, all of that. So we had to settle for ethnic studies. All right. Now, and I said, but everybody's ethnic, What happens when the Italians say we want, can we have some courses in ethnic studies?
Or the Hungarians. And
everybody looked at us like,
Greeks.
no, you got to be silly. And I said, more importantly, what happens when the Arabs or the Israelis ask? Yeah, because this what was it, 6-day war? It just happened, right?
Well, I mean, how do you work that out? I mean, you offer the classes, you teach different perspectives.
Yeah,
but the Trump administration's feeling is that, oh wait, we have a bias built in the Trump administration claims is anti-Semitic and is pro-Palestinian or pro-Islam, and then you get into the whole you get the forever wars in higher ed, right?
Look, I have to be factual. The reality is that there is a element of Black nationalism, and obviously the Muslim nation, right, is the Nation of Islam, right, is an example of that. And there was a period of time when they were very critical of the Jewish American influence, especially on mass communications in American society, because we all saw mass communications as having a built-in bias of omission and exclusion of people of color. And it was really obvious.
We see it now in traditional anti-Semitism when Pete Fuentes is talking about American Jewry, right? I mean, and that's
that Latino, that obviously Latino-looking guy with the Spanish last name. That guy,
right? That is splitting up MAGA, which is actually good because you splinter them up, and they do not have the kind of power they have now. So it's sort of good to see them split up, but the coalition that formed ethnic studies, I think. Do you think they stay together? You say they will. They'll survive.
Well,
they'll survive
at SF State, even under the threat of increased competition for resources because of defunding, right? Reduction in funds. Okay, we still committed, and the solidarity among the strikers, I kind of take that for granted. It's the solidarity among the contemporary faculty. That's what we need to look at, and I think they will be heavily influenced by the perspectives of their students. Okay.
Yeah. Well, history.
Yeah, go ahead.
History is history. History is history. People need to know. People need this knowledge to go forward.
Our histories included when we first started ethnic studies. It was really obvious that people who had experienced the Second World War, right, had very strong perspectives on the relationship between Filipinos, the Philippines, and Japan. Okay, and so the question was, we have veterans, both civilian veterans and military veterans of the Second World War that experienced the horrors that were committed by a Japanese imperial military, right? And so there are parents. My father fought in World War II, right, in an American uniform, all right? And we always on the playgrounds we had to justify, who we were in relationship to the World War II and Korea, right? And even in a pickup basketball or baseball game, like, whose side did you fight on?
Well, that kind of stuff. Imagine that, and imagine that argument happening today when their favorite player is Shohei Ohtani and Yamamoto. The Dodgers.
They got well, and Sasaki too. They got
Rocky
two.
Sasaki.
They got two Japanese. They got three Japanese pitchers, man.
Yeah. And then you got the Korean baseball players coming in, and so I mean we're and
who's
look,
that?
it's
Who's that
already
center
third world.
fielder? What?
It's already Hispanic. Baseball's Vlad Guerrero. There's already Hispanic. All right, look, we'll end our discussion.
Right. So anyway, so can I get it? All right. What we covered was let me cover it all this way. So in the conversation between students and faculty, one of the top things was we advise students you need to have global knowledge of history as well as a local and national understanding of history. So don't get wrapped up in just your own immediate circumstance, right? You got to see it in the context of the world. Okay. Secondly, shouldn't we have some unity around trying to end the unconstitutional criminal action by police and federal agents, right? That came up. That was a big thing. So we want to organize around that, right? Who's interested in going to law school? Can you do internships with civil rights organizations? Like the NAACP, like the ACLU, etc. Right. Third thing was funding. We got to be making arguments about increasing, not restoring, but increasing the level of funding for public education.
Okay?
Okay. The reason it's being attacked is because of DEI. They say there's just too much DEI going on. They've got it down to the point where look at all of the teachers, individual faculty being attacked. Okay. And they know that that's only going to work on a very limited basis, but it scares the hell out of everybody else. And last of all, it discourages people from seeking careers in education.
Yeah. Well,
right?
Dan,
so we wanted to fight that.
DEI, according to the present administration, is the enemy of the people.
Yes, it is.
DEI,
which makes all of us the enemy of the people.
Yeah, we
the people are the enemy of the people.
We want
the
to
last
preserve,
thing.
Yeah, we want to preserve the whiteness of American society.
Well, you and I have been saying that literally for years, ever since we've been having these conversations online. Okay.
Yeah.
And offline, we've been saying the same thing all the way back to the freaking 80s. Okay.
Yeah.
And people have said, no, it's, the society, where do you get this idea? Where's this notion that this society is based on race and racism?
Yeah.
Okay. And my response was always, it's in the freaking Constitution.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah. Well, it's race, but now you get you intertwine it with class, and you get this highball, this cocktail.
You cannot separate race from class. You cannot separate the discussion of race from class in American society. Up until 1970, if you were a person of color, the reality was, at best, you were a member of the lower middle class. At best.
Yeah.
The vast majority of people of color were working class, working class and working poor.
I don't separate it. It's just that sometimes people like to take race and class separately, but they are intertwined, and they are coming at us when they talk about woke and anti-woke. They're going after race, but they're also going after class.
We've got a lot of people, right? We've got a lot of people, especially in the Asian American communities, that have made it into the middle class, upper middle class, and upper class, right? And because of that mobility, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of resistance to the notion that what do you mean? I made it. We made it. Look at all the people.
That's always been the thing.
Pacific Heights and St. Francis Wood. Look at all of the people. Look at all the Asians. I mean,
Jensen Huang, right?
41%. 41% of the people admitted to Harvard.
Yeah.
Jensen
Huang, the NVIDIA guy, when they hold that up, they say, well, look, we don't need a handout. Well, maybe not Jensen Huang, but,
Yeah.
But
that's like saying families on SNAP don't need a handout, right?
Yeah.
Even though the majority of them are white.
Yeah. So,
Anyway, the last thing I want to mention is, remember on Wednesday at the conclusion of our discussion
at the library,
people said we got to move. What are we going to do? We have to take action, right? Clear action. We have to organize for a higher level of national action, right? And I said, what do you have in mind? I asked, and what came out was General strike.
General strike.
General
Oh,
strike.
related to the San Francisco state strike, a general strike. Well, a strike is a strike, but this, this is a general, not a specific, a general strike. And so, what did
what is a general strike? What does a general strike mean? What does that mean?
Just say no. Just say no.
No to what? And what do we do if you're going to strike? Have a general strike. What do you strike against? You gotta be shutting something down. What are you doing?
Well, what did the students say? We want to fight against what? The government, the administration. What did they say?
You just don't go to work. Don't go to work. Don't use the credit system. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I heard
as much as possible. Only buy local. Only buy local.
Pay
right?
cash.
And boycott the big monopoly like supermarkets. Right? Yeah. Just go local. And that's one way of conducting a strike.
Grow your food.
Protest at work.
Walk
okay,
everywhere.
Don't go to work. Everybody say we're going to have one day off. Everybody takes a day off. Okay, we've done it for holidays. What the hell? Yeah. We can't do it because we want to get rid of border patrol, ICE, and local police. Behaving like fascists and injuring people, innocent people,
So basically,
injuring innocent people, putting them in detention centers, right? Yeah. And then sending them to foreign countries. What the hell?
Yeah, well, basically, it's people, they were calling for a kind of sick out, a general sick out.
People are already experiencing the effects of that, right? Yeah. Because of the shortage of tower controllers, right? Airport tower controllers.
Well, look.
So here we are.
All right.
So there's a 10%, right? Federal requirement. It affects us locally, right? But look, we got Thanksgiving, one of the most traveling periods, right? The holidays in general, Thanksgiving through New Year's. And what's going to happen? And I think the damn thing might collapse.
Well, I hope. I know that it's bad. The thing is, not everyone flies. There's a group of people who fly. I don't want to say that, there aren't middle class people flying, but you can go to some working class areas and you ask people who's taking a plane somewhere, who's going, unless it's a business thing. Flying is a treat for many people. And especially with the cost of,
it's a special event
of aviation, of transportation. I remember one time, and this is not very far, when 9/11 happened. I thought, okay, I'll get to New York. I'll see things there at some point. I'll get there. I never went because I did most of my travel by car within, California. It took me several years before I went to New York, and I imagine that for most normal people, unless they have business in New York, they're not flying very far. They might fly locally, like SF LA, SF Seattle, something like that. But it's a special thing to go on vacation, maybe by plane. So I don't know if the aviation thing or the air traffic controller thing is gonna amount to some pain if you're traveling. Not everyone is traveling. People aren't going to feel that yet, unless there's some ancillary things that come out of the business travel. So,
well, you also have to remember cargo.
Yeah, cargo and
cargo. So shipping is going to be hurt, and so Amazon is already saying that it's going to slow stuff down. And obviously UPS, Federal Express, right? Because everybody's going to be affected. So they have fewer hubs.
Yeah.
They have fewer hubs, but 10%, cutback is 10%.
Well, right? I think the shutdown, now that people are beginning to feel pain, you see the Democrats coming out and saying, look, here's what we can do. Republicans who've been sent home, we can just extend those health care costs or those Obama extensions or Obama subsidies.
Tax.
Yeah, extend them for a year, and we can continue to negotiate. And actually, it isn't a bad idea. I was surprised that Schumer went out there today, Senator Chuck Schumer. But I think that he's got the upper hand. That it's the Republicans' shutdown. They own it. They how can you not own it if you're the president? You own Congress. but the House and the Senate.
Well, Trump even admitted it.
Yeah.
He even admitted that it hit her. But what the way he admitted it was to say this really hurts Republicans, right?
Yeah.
As though he's not one of them. Right. Well, that it's not about me, man. Yeah. It's about them.
Well, here's the thing about the way Trump is doing. He's saying, look, this shutdown is bad. Let us. Here's his solution. Though. So the solution is get rid of the filibuster, and so we can get a simple majority and push everything we want in. Push everything we want in. Which is, of course, the Trump
and the Republicans, including Thune, including Thune, right? Yeah. He's saying, no.
Yeah, because they
not a good idea. Because if we do that, they're going to smack us. Yeah. I mean, you can look at everybody getting impeached, right? Yeah, everybody. Well, let's line them up.
Here's the thing about Trump. Trump is now a short timer. He is the lamest of lame ducks now. And he doesn't know how to deal with it. And the only way he knows how to deal with it is to double down on all the things he was doing before Tuesday's election. And that's what we talked about on Wednesday at the library at our event, as well as the strike. And
that's right.
Here's
Isn't
my
it interesting, the overlap between the commemoration of a series, not just one event, but a series of events, and a commemoration of a generation of people, of activists, right?
Yeah.
Right? That were labeled as radicals and communists, right? Yeah. At the time, and now there's a complete convergence with the contemporary generations of activists who are saying this stuff got to stop.
Yeah, well, so, I mean, the takeaway for me about Tuesday is that the voters realize that they didn't have, it wasn't just about going to, no Kings rallies every other month. It wasn't, that they actually could stand up to Donald Trump. They can actually use their vote, because what is the weapon we have in democracy but the vote? The vote is in our voice. That's our weapon. And
even in Maine, right? Even in Maine, they voted against the voter suppression law.
Yeah.
And
conservative.
They voted up
yeah.
by 60%, right? Red flag laws on regarding guns and gun possession, right?
Yeah.
This is in Maine,
Yeah, Maine.
No, be a red state.
Live free or die, right?
Yeah,
I think that's Maine, right? Or no, Maine is.
I don't know. I can't remember.
Maine is the vacation state.
I think. Well, actually, I had colleagues that were from the Northeast, and they still had ancestral property in Maine. So, indeed, it was a vacation state.
I love Maine. That's where you get the first sunrise in the nation.
It's a beautiful state. Yeah. I mean, the flora and fauna are things to behold.
Acadia, the national park there, and I think that's where the Appalachian Trail goes, right?
Yeah, that's where it starts.
It's so beautiful. I got there once and I saw the sunrise. It was beautiful, and except that you got to remind yourself, all right, now go back there in the dead of winter and see how much you like it. And then you say, okay, I'm going back to California. All right, so look, the election. We have all the trickle away, of blacks and independents and Latinos and Asians even. It reversed. Everything reversed. It's like everyone had a taste of Trump, and these last 10 months they chewed it up, they tasted, and they spit it out last Tuesday. And I think,
and I'm hoping that this is a trend, right? That's all we can do is hope this is a trend. In the meantime, I am helping to organize for a general strike. I am using the language general strike. I'm describing
general strike. General strike.
We're gonna be don't be making fun of it. There's gonna be some serious stuff, dude. This is gonna be some serious stuff.
I've seen
the unions are gonna be the first to organize at a high level, and they're gonna say general strike. I know that's gonna happen.
Yeah. I have seen some talk already online, and how long is it open-ended? Is it 1 day, a week, 2 days? What do you think?
It doesn't have to be that long. I think people can make us a decent sacrifice and get the point across. Okay, because see, the main thing is all of the actions that Trump is taking, including the illegal, unconstitutional actions being done supposedly, right, to get rid of illegally present criminals, right? All of that stuff has got to stop. and they have to know they might be able to arrest a few people up and down and send them away. But not only is it going to stop, it's going to be reversed. And the only reason they're going to be able to get that message is overwhelming numbers. That's the thing that has to happen.
Yeah.
They have to know they got no chance.
Well, we
got no chance.
We got a sense on Tuesday that that people have woken up. They realize that the vote can make a difference. Now, Republicans want to poo-poo it and say, well, you won in states Democrats usually win. Well, that's not necessarily true with New Jersey,
man.
Not necessarily
sometimes what is that idiot that who said sometimes they win by losing or lose by winning.
Well, Toon was saying, John Toon in the Senate was saying, Democrats usually win, New Jersey, they usually win Virginia, but
it's just history. Yeah. It's just history. The people that won in 2024 are going to have a down year. So they're even admitting they're probably going to lose in 26. Right? It's a natural cycle. Yeah. It's a natural cycle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, look at and like every 250 years, a Muslim gets elected to be mayor of New York. I mean, that's the cycle. We got one now.
I love that. I love that. Borrow that.
Here's my thing. Here's my thing about Mamdani.
Yeah, but there were a bunch of Muslims elected, though.
First Muslim mayor. First Muslim mayor.
Yeah. But there were other. Well, my point is that there are other Muslims in the same election in other states.
That's true.
That also got elected, and I think one is a woman.
Well, Muslim, and it's and the thing is, it's a rejection of Islamophobia. But once you got Mamdani in there, he speaks for everyone. Everyone's a brother. Even the people who he says Trump says he was a Jew hater, but I didn't see anything that would suggest that Mamdani is a Jew hater. Certainly not now. But here's the thing. Here my line on Mamdani is. 3 degrees of separation. I've got 1 degree of separation with Mamdani because I know Mamdani's mommy. I know Mamdani's mommy.
What does that date your butt or what, man? I mean, so you're gonna have to let them know that it's not 69 anymore.
No, it's not 69.
I mean, you kind of you advanced beyond that measure.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny as hell. I know his mom. We took a class together.
Yeah. we were. It wasn't like high school algebra or anything, or it wasn't like 6th grade. It was like in college. We were filmmakers.
It was in college.
And more than that, we were part of the same co-op, which is kind of socialistic. That's kind of socialistic. Right?
There you go.
We're cooking for each other.
Yes, there it is. No, I mean, life is interesting, isn't it? I mean, some of the best stuff like that happens. There's a hell of a coincidence, but none. I mean, they're both achievers and a half, man.
Oh,
both of his parents.
Yeah, parents. But the thing is, it's great to see that next generation of them, because when we were there were no, people of color, right now. Right now, Harvard is 41% Asian, right? Back then, it was maybe 5%, barely.
I think the fun part is that 41% ain't Chinese.
Well, yeah. Well, wait. The 41%, well, I guess it's a mix. I don't know if
it's a major mix. They didn't break it down completely, but you can guess that it's going to be South Asian heavy.
Yeah, South Asian, Chinese, and maybe a little. There's some Filipinos in there in the mix.
Yeah, there's some Filipinos.
Definitely are. But also Hmong, Vietnamese, and anyway. So all right. So we talked about the vote. We're hopeful for the vote. We talked about. We got to talk about Nancy Pelosi. We're both San Franciscans, and this will tie into another subject that we had, Filipino-American history. It's veterans. We're coming up to Veterans Day. The veterans issue, pay equity for the veteranos from the Philippines who were victims of the Rescission Act of 1946, where they were promised certain things and then was taken away. I think Pelosi.
They were promised pay.
Yeah, and pay. And it was
They were eligible for citizenship and pay.
And it taken away by Truman after FDR promised it. So I will say this. Nancy Pelosi, when she got into office, was both an ally and a roadblock. And I don't know if she was a roadblock because it wasn't out of any. I think she's just a political pragmatist. She knew not to push anything through if you don't have the votes. So I just remember every time we pushed for equity pay for the veterans, every time we were denied. And it wasn't until, I mean, that's how long it took to get votes. It took
late 1980s, and then it was a rider. It was just put up as a rider in that 1990
but
act.
It was 2009 that it was finally.
Oh yeah,
and because Obama was in, and they got the votes and they had the leadership, and that's when she pushed. But even then, it was tricky. So look, I like Pelosi personally. I bump into her when I used to go to the Giants games a lot in that little area where it gets crowded as you go out. I happen to get next to her, and I was able to get an interview out of her. I saw her at a couple Giants parades. I like Nancy Pelosi a lot, but in terms of how she did the Filipino vets, she didn't push as hard when we thought, but ultimately, look, I'll give her credit. She got it done with when Obama got in 2009, and still, as you know, not perfect. The vets didn't get it all, and a lot of vets died before they got. They didn't get anything. The veterans who died. So, but still, all right.
Well,
I mentioned the negative because I want to say that, yeah, I'm sad that she's retiring, but her legacy is kind of mixed with me. She did a lot, but for the Filipinos, mixed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Even though she considers herself essentially a native of San Francisco, right? Because she's lived here so long, she's really not. I mean, she's really an East Coaster,
Baltimore,
in terms of her earlier life.
Yeah,
and so her relationship is a relationship between Italians and Filipinos, and the older relationship was rather conflictual.
Yeah.
I mean, even though the Filipinos are supernumerary in the restaurants, pre World War II even, and then especially after World War II, because a lot of Italians fought, side by side with Filipinos. They became friends. A lot of Filipinos were valets and cooks in the Navy.
Yeah.
To officers, and those officers who were people of means started businesses. Many started restaurants, and they hired Filipinos as their chefs, along of course with Italian and French chefs, European chefs. But a lot of the Filipinos became the top of the pile after only a few years, 5 to 10 years. And there was animosity between the European chefs, right?
I know. Well, I had relatives who worked at Pauli's in San Francisco. Some of the best Italian restaurants.
Oh, no.
Fisherman's Wharf.
I had an uncle that worked at the old Poodle Dog, right? Places like that. All of the places up and down Powell Street.
Bernstein's.
We used to be, sure.
Yeah.
City of Paris. The old Emporium restaurant, upstairs.
It's funny. My dad worked at. I walked by it the other day. It's that big. It's a shoe store now on Powell and Mason, or not Powell and Mason. Is it Geary?
Mason run parallel
on Powell and Geary.
Okay,
Geary, that it used to be the Casual Corner. It used to be Pam's or something. But my father.
I used to buy jackets there. I used to.
My father used to work there when it was Milton F. Christ. It was a big.
Oh wow!
It was a big highfalutin coffee shop, in downtown San Francisco, where you can get your club sandwich and not be part of the club. and I would go there as a little boy, and then
get the
I go
freebies.
back in the kitchen. They here
That's right.
have some French fries. Have some French fries.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that was great. But
oh no, we had my dad worked as a baker's assistant at Simpson's Catering and Bakery on Clement,
ah,
and so we all of the kids got big ass birthday cakes,
wow.
heavily decorate all of
And
us, even if the family had 5 kids, they had cool birthday cake. The pantry man uncle, my Uncle Frank, right,
yeah.
was right around the corner. Free sandwiches,
Yeah.
man.
Oh,
I mean, we
my
get.
dad was a pantry man too. My dad was.
All right,
I
there
mean,
it
because
is.
the pantry was cool. The pantry was cool.
All right.
You
Hey,
didn't
man,
get too hot.
salads. That's where my love for egg salad, true egg potato
Yeah.
salad,
Yeah.
right, German
Yeah.
style. Yeah,
Oh,
that was the beginning.
my dad was the king of coleslaw. He made the
All
coleslaw.
right.
Something easy. Let me just shred up some
Yeah,
cabbage,
sure,
throw
yeah.
some
Oh
vinegar.
man,
That's
no, there was
coleslaw.
so many. I had another friend of the family. It was Ted Sugatan was his name. He's one of the famous
I
Sugatan
know
family.
Ted
This
Sug. I
guy,
think I know Ted
did you
Sugden.
know him?
I think
Oh, cool. Yeah, he lived in the neighborhood. They were out in the Richmond, right?
Ted Sugden. I think
Right on 42nd Avenue or something. And they were one of the first Asian families to live out there. And one of the reasons was it was close to work for him because he worked at the Cliff House.
Oh yeah, Cliff House. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it was like a couple blocks walk, right? Wasn't an easy one because the walk back home was uphill.
Well,
But yeah, and not only did he cook there, you know how Filipinos were worked in the kitchen, but then they also played music,
oh yeah.
on
Oh
boats.
yeah. Yeah.
He also played trumpet and guitar.
Oh wow. Wow.
So yeah, so when we get together on holidays and stuff like that, he'd break out the guitar. He had this big ass guitar, hollow body, and we'd sing and play along and stuff, pop tunes, some Filipino songs. Right?
Yeah,
It was really
the
cool.
musical. I had my uncle Gundo. He was a saxophone player. So
All right.
but he didn't come with a company. He just came solo with his saxophone to blow, and that was kind of cool. But we didn't have a.
Did you guys? Well, if you went into the Filipino events, right,
Mhm.
the big dances and stuff like that, especially when the veterans were getting together and having their dances, and in that big, there was a big basement hall in the War Memorial. Well, the Veterans
Oh yeah,
Memorial
yeah,
Building.
yeah,
Remember that?
yeah, yeah. I do.
Yeah, beautiful. Had a beautiful bar, great dance floor, and the Filipinos were boogie, man. But Mel Estopare was he was trumpet player,
Hmm.
played cornet and trumpet,
Hmm.
uh, and Cherry Pink and Apple Blossom. Remember that
Oh
song?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Da, da, da,
Cherry Pink and
yeah,
okay.
played it as a cha cha or
So all right, so
oh
Dan, all
man,
right, let's get back to Pelosi. She's going.
oh,
Who's gonna?
she didn't know all of that culture. That was her problem. She was not invested in the Filipino side of the culture, even though we had Filipinos eating at cooking at all of the places where she ate, especially in North
Yeah.
Beach, man.
Well, who's going to replace her? Who's going to replace Pelosi?
Okay, people are talking Wiener, right?
He's sort of like the natural names come up. He's
Yeah, and he's senior, right? In terms of having gone through the assembly and having gone through the Senate as well. He's in the Senate now, so he's got seniority, kind of. But in terms of and he's pretty liberal, he's pretty progressive. But you know who I think calls the shots better and was stronger on the homeless issue and public education. Matt Haney.
Matt Haney.
I liked Haney. I liked Haney.
I
Can you think of any women that are
I don't know
eligible?
Haney, but maybe is this a way for someone like Kamala Harris? No, she wouldn't want to be a congressman.
No, man, it's a step down.
Step down. Step down.
Step down.
So
I don't.
who would want to represent San Francisco? I can't think of one, but we're going to have people coming out of the woodwork, I'm sure.
Well, it's going to be, there's going to be people from the current supervisors that might try. There's, there may even be people who really have more of a San Mateo set of credentials than San Francisco proper.
What about my friend David Chu, city attorney?
Yeah,
city attorney.
is he willing to do that? Is he is he willing to do that? I mean,
I just think it's such a he'd get.
It would be a lifetime gig for him. It would be a lifetime gig. He could get reelected over and over again.
It's a pay cut, right? From being city attorney. He was in line to be from supervisor, in line to be mayor, and then
that's right.
What's his name stepped in and kind of Bigfooted him, right? Because Ed Lee was just going to be temporary, right? Because he was appointed,
right? Yeah,
and
right.
Then he ran, and then so.
And I think that decision was made, by Pelosi at Alia.
By the machine, yeah.
Yep, by the machine.
By the machine.
That's right, and his willingness.
And the thing is, I like David. I know him, worked with him. I think if he wanted to get back into heavy duty elected politics, this may be the way. I think it's a nice cushy job to be city attorney. You still got to run, but it's well paying. You aren't the lead guy, but most people find that kind of a terminal thing, the city attorney job. And I think he might feel called to step in. So I want to float David Chu. I want to float David Chu because former supervisor, president of the supervisors, city attorney, old friend of mine.
Did some time in the assembly too.
Oh yeah. Oh, I forgot. I almost forgot about the assembly.
Come on now.
Yeah.
Come on now.
He was in the assembly. I think he'd be good. Now, now maybe would Bonta be? No, Bonta's not interested in being congressman.
No, that's too low. That's too low. Bonta could have in a couple of years. There's other people that have greater seniority, right? Yeah. And so they're going to run for governor. But he could have a shot at either governor or senator, depending on how things work out.
Well, maybe not governor, but
he might want to do that. Hopefully he doesn't want to do court because he'd be great on the freaking Supreme
he
Court,
would,
California
but
Supreme Court.
I think here's the other thing. That position, the AG, has been a catapult for a lot of people, from Congress to Harris to Senate, Becerra to HHS. So if a Democrat's in charge gets elected, he could be a cabinet member, and that would not be that would not be.
The thing I don't dig about the candidate, the thing I don't dig about the cabinet, it's only good as long as your term lasts, right? And it's subject to the 4-year review.
Yeah.
So you could get stuck in a one term. I used to make that argument to people that we got rated, right, for people to go to the DNCC. Mm-hmm. We being SF State and the local population got rated for some of our leading elements from our communities, Chinese American and Filipino American particularly. And I was joking with them, but I said, you might get stuck with, Clinton could be a one-term guy, man, so you get a job for 2.5 freaking years, and that's it. Yeah, but so what are you gonna do after that? And they went anyway.
You play your cards anyway. Look, you play your cards right. Look, I remember the Clinton years. When Clinton was elected, it was like after this drought for the Democrats, everyone was so excited and they wanted to be part of that administration, no matter what the pay cut. And if a Democrat takes over, in 28, well, look, we haven't even talked about Yes on 50. It won handily, and it won.
We don't have to talk about it. We don't have to talk about it anymore. Okay. The only thing we have to say is hope it spreads.
Yeah.
I hope other blue states do the same thing. Yeah. I hope Pritzker does it.
But the thing that's worth talking about and why I bring it up at this juncture is because it does catapult Gavin Newsom into primary.
I thought we already said that.
Well, I think we said that on Wednesday live.
We said okay.
But we haven't said it here. But if Gavin Newsom, if he runs for president and he wins, Bonta is going to be right there, right?
Holy smoke. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what he chooses, but he is so good it makes me ashamed of our weakness, my own personal weakness and lack of ambition.
Well, the thing is, look, Bonta, I said this, you know, what is it about our generation that is maybe 15, 20 years younger than Bonta that we're still fighting? We're still fighting. I mean, here's the thing about people who are older, like us, that we are still, if we did anything to advance the cause, we are still amongst the shoulders that the new generation stands on, which is not a bad place to be because if we wobble, they fall. So if we fall, they fall, right?
Well, you saw who showed up on Wednesday, man. I mean, a lot of the locals who showed up were SF State grads.
Yeah.
They were many of them were my students. A couple of them were my colleagues. They actually
Oh yeah.
taught with me at SF State, and the locals were also municipal city employees.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and so one of the historical bases for the strength of the Filipino American Democratic Club in past years were the municipal employees.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay, very strong in their political
And
support,
and
very smart.
and they're still
They
there.
really knew what was going. They were insiders. They knew who the players were inside City Hall, right? And they're the source of my information.
Yeah.
A lot of times, so.
And they're still there. There's a new
Yep.
generation there.
Well, it's a whole new crowd. I mean, they haven't even hit the senior years of their time in.
Yeah.
They're the oldest of them are in the middle, right, of their time in as municipal employees. And if we talk a 20-year cycle, it's usually a 20-year, 30-year cycle.
Yeah.
Look how long the people who are just a little bit older than us. The people who gave us the top 10 awards back in
Yeah.
the 80s.
Yeah.
Okay, look how long they stayed in, man,
Oh yeah.
as municipal employees. Who was behind the counters, right, at the permit bureau,
Yeah.
at public utilities and all that.
Yeah.
It's our friends, most of them first generation immigrants,
Yeah.
and now you got a second generation, third generation Filipino Americans, right, who
Well,
are now in those civil service jobs.
and you got Lurie just appointing another supervisor, Filipino Chinese.
Coming out of nowhere.
Yeah.
29 years old,
Yeah.
dude.
Well, I
You
mean,
know, and
this is the thing about appointing people who will be beholden to you. You get to pick a
well,
generation.
it's a really interesting pick because that was very disruptive of the local seniority system,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Very disruptive. And so I'm asking all my contacts at City Hall to let me know what the dynamics are, what the internal dynamics are.
Eh,
What are the reactions from the older people who consider themselves the gatekeepers, right?
Yeah.
One of my contacts called them the perennial. I started with a P, but there were people who were very self self elevating about their
Yeah.
positions, and even though the gate that they might handle is a really small gate,
Well, see,
right?
look,
They guard it jealously, right?
Yeah, Lurie knows what he's doing, and he wants to control, and he wants someone
Well,
young,
they all do.
and
They
he
all
wants
do. They all want control. They all want loyalty, right?
even, yeah, and so it's just a little slightly different version of the way Trump would do it, but
Or the way anybody would do it. That's what politicians do. That's what anybody. Okay, even in the private sector, right? If
yeah,
you got, if you're able to move up to VEEPs and above,
yeah,
to CEO positions, COO positions, that's what they do. They
yeah.
want to try and hire up people who are loyal.
All right.
That's the game,
All right. Well,
right?
Dan, we were trying to keep this under an hour and we went long.
And we went way
We
over.
went way over. But that's all right. I mean, because we got some things out on Wednesday. We were live at the library. I'll post that event sometime over the weekend because it's just taking a long time to process the video. It was like a 2-hour event. This will also be up. We'll put this on Emil Amok's Takeout, wherever you get your podcasts. But it's always on YouTube and on the Emil Amok One channel on YouTube. But Dan, thank you very much. I thought it was a good night on Wednesday. It was a
It
good
was
night
it
on
was a good
Tuesday.
night.
Yeah,
They
and
want us to do it again. Do they want us to do it again or?
oh yeah, they want us to do it again. And next time they want us to do the tinikling. They want us to do the tinikling and the traditional Filipino things. The candle dance, the candle dance.
I remember
They
the
like
last
that.
time I did that, I got laughed at because it took me so long to get the rhythm before I would stick my foot in.
Yeah, yeah, we'll do the tinikling.
1, 2, 3. That's it. It's a 1, 2, 3. But anyway.
All right.
All right.
Well,
Thanks for
Dan,
having me. It was a good one. We did a good one.
yeah,
Thanks for letting me rant
thanks again.
about
Oh
the
no,
FX
no
strike.
problem. And don't forget Emil Amok's takeout or Emil is what is it? I call
Well,
it
and you got people
69.
who said they're going to be there. They're going to come. So
Yeah,
and
and
I'm
then
starting to see all kinds of reaction online. So
and
get that Wednesday thing up online, man.
yeah, all right, all right. There he goes. Daniel Phil Gonzalez, thank you very much. Daniel Phil Gonzalez, College of Ethnic Studies, Asian American Studies, San Francisco State University, Professor Emeritus. My friend, we were talking about San Francisco State and the impact of San Francisco State, the importance of it. It's an annual thing, right? Every year, you got to think about that strike, how important, especially when, ethnic studies, there'd be no ethnic studies without the San Francisco State strike. So we honor the strikers. Dan was there when the original strikers and also did the quiet work, the paperwork that got the classes up there in 1969. Semester system, not the quarters. So they were there before UC Berkeley. And then, of course, they were undeniably the first college of ethnic studies. So an important distinction. Anyway, I always love talking about the San Francisco State strike. And as he points out, very few people understand the importance of that strike. So I'm always glad to have Dan on to talk about that and the other things. General strike, the election on Tuesday. People are happy, but things are moving forward. Hey, I want to talk about my show. My show's coming up. I'm at the Marsh as we say goodbye. November 19th at 7:30 p.m. So tell your friends. You can go to on the link there. You can see where to go, themarsh.org, and find me. Emil Amok 69. This is a little known fact that there is no number 69 in the NBA. There's no Emil Amok in the NBA right now either. But you cannot be number 69 in the NBA. So, but I can be Emil Amok 69. What kind of show is that? 69? Now, why they didn't have 69 in the NBA because you got these guys running around in their underwear. It's kind of suggestive. Well, no doubt it is suggestive, but what kind of show are you doing, Emil? You're going to have to see it. You could see it right side up or upside down. Go see it. It's a fun show. I talk about life in this in these times in 2025. It's at the Marsh, San Francisco, 1062 Valencia Street. Go to San Francisco, the San Francisco Marsh. Go to themarsh.org for tickets. November 19th, one night only, Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. Emil Amok 69. Look at all the nice things people have said about my shows in the past in New York, in Orlando. I'm coming home. I'm doing it here in San Francisco. So please come to the show. There I am with the QR code. I use a microphone. It looks like stand up, but it's not exactly stand up. I tell stories. I tell stories about these times. I tell how these times are related with the past. And you saw how easily the past and these times are related when Dan was talking about San Francisco State. It's funny how the parallels of the past come back with the way life is now. Anyway, Emil Amok 69, November 19th, Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. That's at the Marsh on Valencia Street in San Francisco. Go to themarsh.org for tickets. Please, please tell your friends. And if you can't go, tell your friends. Get the QR code and pass on the information to your friends. And that's it. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining me today. I'll be putting this online. You can watch it, YouTube, the Emil Amok One channel. You can watch it there and also put it wherever you get your podcasts a little later on. These things are hard to manipulate. these large files, large file manipulation. Anyway, we like to end with a little meditation, and this is Sharon Salzberg, one of my gurus, the loving kindness meditation, right? As I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Emil Guillermo here. Emil, Amok to you. Till next time. Mahal Kita.